Thank you. Welcome to the Scrutiny Committee for Community Leisure and Parking on Wednesday the 1st of February. I'm just going to go to my Vice Chairman now and ask her to read out the fire safety announcement.
Thank you. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, leave the building by the nearest marked exit route, follow the green signs to the assembly point, the large staff car park opposite the entrance to the building. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by the officers present after other people have left. Do not return to the building until told it is safe to do so by an authorised officer. I'd like to remind you that the whole of the council's site is a no smoking area and mobile phones must be switched to silent. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to agenda item 1, which is to note substitutes in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 4, substitutes at meetings, and I have Councillor Whittaker is substituting for Councillor Adams. Agenda item 2, to receive apologies for absence. Apologies have been received from Councillor Adams, from Councillor Cartwright and Councillor Spiracci. Agenda item 3, to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Can I go to Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to declare that I'm the County Councillor for Inverdown, which includes Birch's Industrial Estate, which we'll be discussing during item 8. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other members indicating. So I go to agenda item 4, which is to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the committee held on the 16th of November. I'd like to ask you to use the touch screens to vote to agree those minutes. Okay, well, we have 12 members have voted in favour with 1 abstention. So those minutes are agreed. Thank you. I go to agenda item 5, which is to consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. So we swiftly moved on to agenda item 6, which is the air quality report. This is an annual report that comes to committee, and I'm going to go to Lucy Corrie, the Assistant Director for Communities, to introduce this report. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. The purpose of this report is to ask the committee to endorse the council's approach to air quality management. And as a council, we have a duty to monitor, assess and report on air quality across the district. We report on air quality each year to DEFRA as well in an annual status report. The latest was submitted in June 22, covering all monitoring in 2021 and comprising the results against air quality objective standards, which are set nationally and are a health-based criteria. The annual status report will be submitted this June 2023 after we've analysed the 22 data. From the June 22 report, we received good feedback from DEFRA, and they reported that it was well structured, detailed, and provides the information specified in the guidance. So if I may, I will summarise the findings from the 2021 data. Although there has been an increase in nitrogen dioxide levels in 2021 compared to 2020 in our town centres, this is due to COVID restrictions being lifted. But overall, the trend continues to be downward. And you can see that in on page 16 at Appendix 22 in your Appendix 2 in your papers. Luckily, there aren't 22 appendices to this. We have one air quality management area at Stonepound Crossroads, which was declared an air quality management area in 2012. On declaring that area, we were required to prepare an action plan with the aim of reducing pollutant levels below that objective level. The action plan is at pages 11 and 12 of your papers. We are continuing to refine the action plan, and this work is overseen by a steering group of members from Mid-Sussex District, West Sussex County, as well as officers from both, and Sussex Parish Council representatives. You will see that the 4 ongoing actions for Stonepound, 3 sit with the County Council. The good news is that for 4 of the 5 previous years, we've seen levels drop below that objective level at Stonepound, and this reduction is in line with the national trend. DEFRA have advised that results of monitoring in 2021 and 2020, when traffic was drastically reduced due to those COVID restrictions, should not be relied upon when decisions about revocation of air quality management areas are made. Overall, our monitoring for 2021 has showed no exceedances in the air quality objective levels of nitrogen dioxide. You'll know that we've installed an air quality station roadside on London Road in East Grinstead, which is giving us real-time data every 15 minutes. And it's giving us more accurate data on which to base a decision whether a further air quality management area is required. So, in summary, the air quality in Mid-Sussex is generally good and improving. Monitoring in 21 showed no exceedances of the air quality objectives, and we have 1 area of management at Stonepound. We have an air quality station in East Grinstead, which is providing us real-time data in that location. And that's all I've got to say on this report, and I'm very happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you very much for that very comprehensive report and summary of the papers. I will now just open this up to debate by this committee. Can we go to Councillor Ellis, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Could I just ask on page 11 with the current actions and the cut engine signs, could I just ask around Haywards Heath train station at Waitrose, there is 1 sign, but it's not very visible. And obviously we get a lot of congestions with people pulling up in the cars, etc. I know it's difficult to put signage, but is there any way that it could be more visible for people to be encouraged to switch that off? Thank you.
Can I go to Adam, please, for that?
Thank you. Yes, of the focus of the air quality management area is obviously to reduce nitrogen dioxide levels in that area. That's where our focus was. We have considered other places like the station at Haywards Heath to encourage people to reduce the on time of their vehicle when they're stationary. So the signs were put up. They were put up about 18 months ago, I think it was. They are rather small. And this was because of safety issues about people milling around in that area and a risk of them hitting their heads on the sign. So we had to be a bit careful with that. We could certainly consider putting more up in other locations if anyone's got any views on particular areas where they think that may be a problem. Very happy to receive that.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Dempsey?
Thank you. Thanks very much for the report. And just to say, very good news that the overall pollution levels are falling, particularly in Stonepound. Just a point really for confirmation, I guess. As you know, there's obviously been a lot of house development in that area. So we assume there will be increased traffic in general. Hopefully that won't push the the pollution levels back up again. But I'm sure people will be keeping a close eye on that, but I just wanted to raise that as a point to make sure that the potential impact of that quite significant development on London Road is being kept a very close watch. Thank you.
Thank you. That's noted. Thank you, Councillor Dempsey. Does Lucy want to say no? Thank you. That'll be noted. Can I go to Councillor Gibson?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I last sat on discussing this a couple of years ago, so I went back to that and had a look. It's quite interesting that page 11 and the similar chart on that one says that the cut engine, cut pollution signs erected was completed. So perhaps we're going slightly backwards on that. I take the point about the nitrogen dioxide, and I've got the same observation to make about Copthorne. That there's been a lot of new housing completed immediately adjacent to the motorway there. So we must keep an eye on that. But my main question is to do with the particular emissions and just what we're doing to monitor them. I detect an enthusiasm for wood stoves in my area, which is perhaps unsurprising given that there are still some trees there, haven't all been cut down yet. And also the high cost of other forms of heating houses. So are we doing anything towards ensuring that we look at whether or not there's been a jump in particulate emissions? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Can I go to Adam, please, to respond?
Yes. So in order to monitor particulate emissions, the new air quality station in East Grinstead on London Road monitors both particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide. So it will give us good data on which to base any decisions there, and we'll be able to see the trend. There is a focus now by the government on very small particles, the PM, what's called PM 2.5, which are 2.5 microns and smaller. And these are transboundary. They're not so much locally derived, produced. They come from dispersed sources. So there's little local action that we can really do. It's more to do with national action, farming and all sorts of other sources. In fact, the Appendix 1, you'll see the sources of PM 2.5 in the report on page 15. So we will be monitoring it using the air quality station in East Grinstead.
Thank you. Can I now go to Councillor Whitaker?
Thank you, Chairman. Just 4 brief questions, please. Very pleased to see the monitoring station in East Grinstead, opposite McDonald's. Thank you. Where are the 6 sub-monitoring locations, please? And is there one near the 2 busy Felbridge junctions around about the Crown Plaza Hotel?
There is.
And is there any data for that, if so? Table 1, page 12, item 19, it says traffic light reassessments. Can you be specific on where they have been reassessed within the district, please? And fourthly, finally, is there any data for the Ashdown Forest traffic? Because obviously that's a material planning consideration in that particular area. I know it spans with Wealden District Council as well, so is that data all available, please?
Can I go to Adam for that? Thank you.
So the additional 6 monitors in East Grinstead, you mentioned, there is one right on that junction. I will find it for you. If you'll bear with me. So we've got a couple of, we've got one at La Farola, the restaurant along the London Road. We have one on a lamppost on Station Road. We've got one at a house called Bridgeway along London Road. And we've got one at the traffic sign at Imphorn Lane in East Grinstead. and we have one, another one in London Road, East Grinstead. So I think it's the Bridgeway is right on that junction.
Probably the one at Inbourne Lane is most
At the top of Inverhorn Lane, where it hits the London Road. Yeah, that's Bridgeway. Yeah. The item, yeah. So the traffic light monitoring at Stonepound Crossroads, you asked a question on that. So there's, West Sussex have trialled this innovative system where it monitors, it's got sensors on each of the arms at Stonepound Crossroads, and it monitors the pollutant levels on each one of those arms in real time, which the thought is, the aim is to reduce the congestion on those arms that are creating higher pollution levels. So from our perspective, the eastern arm, the Kemah Road, is the most significant because that's where our receptor is at Overcourt. And so the aim is to, if we're seeing pollution levels on that arm building, the system will allow more traffic flow away to keep traffic moving on that arm. So West Sussex have installed these data points, the monitoring points. We've met with them 2 weeks ago and viewed their data over the last 6 months, and the next step is to set a trigger level, because they've got the sort of traffic expertise, we've got the air quality expertise, and we don't want to bring those together. So over the next 6 months, we're going to introduce a trigger level, which will then start affecting the traffic sequencing at the crossroads, with the aim of reducing on that eastern arm the pollution levels. I hope that's clear. And finally, that's something that we don't particularly get involved with as a department. The planning policy team deal with that. I mean, I can raise that and get an answer for you, if that would be okay.
Can I go to Julie Holmes in relation to that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think that many of the members here who are familiar with the work that we do for planning policy reasons and to support development management will be familiar with the fact that we do work with Wealdon, the Conservators of the Ashdown Forest, and East Sussex County Council over the management of the forest, which, as you know, is around the mitigation of the impact on the forest of growth, and in particular the subsequent traffic that might be visiting the forest. So we work closely with our colleagues in Wealdon and have a strategic management plan which looks to divert traffic away from the forest, or at least reduce the impact of the traffic in the forest, as well as a SANG management plan, which also looks to find alternative green spaces to encourage people away from the forest. So we do monitor the impact of that closely through both of those tools.
Thank you very much. Can I go to Councillor Ellis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry to come back. Could I just ask again, on page 11, the installation of the pollutant sensors, I just wondered where they were, and in the future, would there be any availability for the station quarter in Haywards because the whole street scene's changed dramatically. We've obviously got a Waitrose, we've got lots of cafes with outdoor eating areas, there's lots of congestions, and people are now out more on the street since COVID because more chairs, etc., are put out there. So I just wondered if you could answer that, please. Thank you.
Can I go to Adam, please?
Yes, most nitrogen dioxide is related to high volume traffic, where there's a lot of traffic passing through an area. and it's to do with speed as well and idling vehicles. The only problem area we ever had, in fact, was Stone Pound. We haven't got the same levels in any other area in the district. And the good news is that even at Stone Pound, we're below the objective level. So it's all looking good. Because exposure relates to distance as well, anyone who's back away from the road, the pollutant levels disperse very quickly with distance. It's proportional to a cube. So as you move a small distance and the reduction is very significant. So you wouldn't have the same problem that you would have close to a road as you would in a cafe, even 4 meters, 3-4 meters away. It would be very, very much reduced. And obviously you haven't got the throughput of traffic in that location. So I don't think we would have a problem there in terms of exposure, and that's really what we're trying to reduce.
No, thank you for explaining that.
Thank you. From the chair, I'd just like to ask a couple of other questions which haven't yet been raised. Could you enlighten us a bit more on the report, on the action plan? Point 2 talks about the improving and promoting of cycle routes. That's ongoing. Could you give us an update on that? And I've got one other question in relation to point 34, where it talks about the installation of electric vehicle charging points. I don't know whether it's too early yet, whether we have any data on what the uptake of usage of those has been. So I'd just like to raise those 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll certainly be able to answer the first one. I'm not sure I'll be able to answer the second one, but I can certainly get data for you if you want. But yeah, so Action 2 was improving the cycle routes and promoting the cycle routes between Sayers Common and Sussex. And this was done under the LC WIP, the Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Programme. So this is a county-run project. Now, because of the focus on Stone Pound, the priority was the Sussex to the Hurstby Point to Sussex section. And the design for the 13 sections between Manor Road in Hurstby Point and Dale Avenue in Sussex, the design stage is complete, and they're looking to build that out this financial year in 23-24 between April and August this year. So the various sections between Manor Road in Hurstby Point and Dale Avenue in Sussex are going to be built out this spring, summer. And then the final section between Sayers Common and Manor Road in Hurstby Point, that will have to be considered as a proposal for the future. And once the Manor Road to Dale Avenue section is complete, they'll have to look for funding for that section.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I go to Simon Hughes about the, I've got Louise Duffield. Simon, can I go to you, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just being aspirational there. I think as I know, as our cabinet member said at council, we're currently nearing 100% completion of our installations, and so the data is being collected. We should be in a position to share that usage data with Scrutiny shortly.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I see no other members. Does Councillor Webster, do you want to say anything as Cabinet Member?
Thank you, Chairman. I just first of all wanted to thank members for their comments and questions. And I think it's important to remember that there's a set of tubes right across the district to measure pollutant levels across the district. And Stone Pound Crossroads is the only area in Mid Sussex where we have had an issue more than 10 years ago now. And the template on which this report is written is given to us, and we have to abide by that layout. And this report is submitted to the department for their approval before it comes to us as elected members. And it's been through that process, and the department is content with what we're doing. And just to allay some of the concerns that I think were behind some of the questions, the roadside monitoring system in East Grinstead does real-time readings every 15 minutes. And the reason that it's collecting both tube measures and the more accurate, we believe, machine readings is so that we can compare them, and we can, I forget the mathematical terminology, but basically it's to test the accuracy of the tubes over time. And the other important thing to remember is that no changes are considered on a what I would call spur of the moment situation. The department want to see figures for at least a year to justify any changes that we might want to make. And that's a very important thing to remember, because things don't happen quickly when it comes to air pollution. It's trends that are being measured more than anything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the debate on this item. I'm now going to take you to the recommendation. So this committee is recommended to endorse the approach of the Council on air quality management. So can I ask you to vote on this, please, using the touch screen? Thank you. That has unanimously been endorsed, so thank you. So we're now going to move on to agenda item 7. So this is an application by part of the licensed hackney trade to amend the taxi licensing policy, and those papers are on page 21 to 32 of the report. I'm going to go to Lucy Corrie to introduce that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The report is asking this committee to recommend to Council that the existing, no, I beg your pardon, that's the wrong report. That's really so professional, not. I really am sorry. What a great start.
It's fine.
This is the taxi vehicle age report. And I do apologise. The purpose of this report is to ask the committee to recommend to the Cabinet member to either continue with the current policy of restricting the age of vehicles to 10 years, or to carry out a 6-week consultation to consider extending the age to 12 years. On the 1st of October 2017, the taxi licensing policy introduced a restriction of licensed hackney carriages or private hire vehicles to a maximum of 10 years old. The current licensing policy aims to ensure the public have access to an effective, professional and safe hackney carriage and private hire service in mid-Sussex. The current age limit for vehicles has been in place for 5 years. However, the policy does allow discretion on a case-by-case basis should a request from a driver be received to extend that age. Since the policy was introduced, 3 drivers have applied to use a vehicle older than 10 years of age. No requests have been upheld. And there is, of course, a further right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court, and indeed, after that, the Crown Court. On the 10th of October 22, the team received a petition from a selection of the licensed trade requesting we consider amending that policy from 10 to 12 years of age. The petition names 75 drivers, but 3 drivers had signed twice and 14 entries were unsigned. This is at Appendix 1, and that's page 27 of your papers. The drivers cite changing financial circumstances as the reason for requesting this change, and that's outlined in paragraph 16. The petition suggests that if the age limit were changed, certain criteria would also change, and that's outlined in paragraph 17. Officers have considered the petition and have looked at the age policy of other Sussex districts and boroughs. This is at Appendix 2, and again, another apology, it says Appendix 3, but it is Appendix 2. I apologise for that typo. And that's, as I say, page 23. It is officers' view that the 10-year age limit is proportionate and consistent. It is also considered that the proposed changes introduce discretion, which could lead to an increased challenge from drivers, and this could be exacerbated by the suggestion there is no appeal of the decision. In law, any licensing policy cannot exclude the lawful right of appeal to the magistrates' court and so on, so this suggestion cannot be implemented. Furthermore, the proposals will require additional officer resources to manage the increased inspection regime, and there's likely to be less reduction in emissions in Mid-Sussex, as older vehicles are more likely to be diesel. And this is a commitment in the current policy to reduce licensed vehicle emissions. In view of the existing processes, the team are of the view that the vehicle age restrictions continue to be enforced at 10 years. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have on that report.
Thank you. So as we now go to, as a committee, to discussing this and to discussing the options we have, which are at point 4 in the papers, I'd just like to highlight and emphasise to members that from a licensing point of view, our utmost priority is public safety. So anyway, I now open it up to the committee for discussion. Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I was part of the licensing committee that discussed the policy back 2 years ago, and I recall at the time that there was a discussion about the age of vehicles and indeed whether it should be extended at that time. That committee decided that 10 years was appropriate, which is why the policy sits as it is. But one of the key issues within that, the policy that was discussed at length, was compliance with Euro 6. And the implication was that, it was also at the point at which the amendment to the Euro 6 would be introduced, would be that by limiting the age to 10, then all of the vehicles would be Euro 6 compliant by, if I've got it correct here, by 1st September 2025. Now, then if we slip this, does that drift out? Thank you.
Can I go to John Bryant, please?
Yes, Councillor, you're correct there that if this was adopted, that would require slippage with that commitment from 2 years ago.
Do any other members want to come back to us? Councillor Dempsey.
Thank you. I'm certainly very minded around the issue of vehicle emissions in particular. I'm very much in support of reasons stated for why we might not want to reconsider this. I just wondered, in the interest of having a completely open mind and being fair, given that this is something that potentially has quite a significant impact on a comparatively small number of people in terms of their livelihoods, has there been any kind of comparative assessment done about what the actual impact of changing this would be on the council's sustainability strategy and our net zero targets and so on, versus, because that's obviously an extremely important goal and I'm wholly and completely in support of it, but this probably has a fairly negligible impact upon meeting that target, whereas it will have a very significant impact on the individuals concerned. So it's a risk analysis, I guess, about things that are high impact for a small number versus things that are a much bigger issue but has a much smaller impact on that issue. So I'd just be interested if, you know, in making recommendations, officers have gone about a process by which they can compare those two things. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I go to John Bryant, please?
The short answer to that is no, we haven't and haven't been able to do a comparison, and I'm not quite sure how we would be able to do the comparison. I do know that the Department of Transport has said that licensed vehicles do a proportionally higher degree of mileage than normal family vehicles, and that's something which should be taken into account with regards to their usage.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor DeBell, please?
I think Councillor Dempsey makes a very good point. We're all very mindful of the costs of running any sort of business, and but I note that other councils have even less. You're talking 7 years and down to 3 in one particular case. The other thing is, I'm mindful of the fact that a taxi in 10 years, a licensed vehicle, sorry John, can travel an awful long way in 10 years. And also mindful of the fact that there are advances being made all the time in motor vehicles. Hopefully one day we'll get back to hydrogen rather than these wretched electric things, but who knows. And so therefore I think that 10 years is a good stipulation, and I would expect and hope that other councils might come to our sort of agreement as well. Thank you.
I don't think there was a question there, John, was it? You were just really endorsing the 10 years?
I was endorsing.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Dempsey? Would you like to come back?
Thank you. Sorry, just a quick follow-up. I mean, obviously we're being asked not to consider whether to change it now, but whether to undertake a consultation. I apologise if I've missed it, but is there actually a figure on the cost that would be for officer time and other resources? I'm sorry if I missed that. But I appreciate we don't want to be taking on unnecessary work for no good reason. But in terms of, you know, really clearly assessing, because I appreciate what you're saying, it's kind of comparing apples and oranges about the effect on people's businesses versus on our sustainability strategy. But that's what trade-offs and synergies are always about, isn't it? You're always trying to get the best fit across a range of different competing priorities. I would be keen to see some sort of analysis of that kind to say, on the one hand, but on the other hand. But if it's extremely expensive and that, you know, then we shouldn't. So I'd just be interested to know whether there's been some kind of cost calculation of how much doing that 6-week consultation would actually be. Thank you.
Can I go to John Bryant, please?
I think, in essence, we should take the two slightly apart. The actual analysis with regard to the contribution that vehicle emissions from licensed vehicles would do would be a separate piece of work to an actual public consultation as to whether or not the council should consider changing the current policy. Both strands of work they do have considerable officer time impact, although I'm not able to say how much the cost would be. There is a cost implication in both routes, which in officer time is in some of them quite substantial.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Pulfer, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm just looking at proportionality of the signatures on the deputation that's attached here. So it really comes into 3 questions. Are all of these signatures Mid-Sussex District Council Hackney taxi licences, or are they private hire? And there are 75 or so, some are not signed properly, but nevertheless, how many are there in totality so that we can see the proportionality of the 75 versus number X?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. I was going to ask the same question. So can I go to John Bryant, please, for an answer to that?
Thank you, Councillor. On the 74 names that we have, I believe, looking through them, there is approximately 3 or 4 private hire drivers. The rest are Hackney drivers. Overall, Hackney and private hire drivers combined, we have in the region of 500 licensed drivers.
Okay, thank you. So that shows it's actually not a very big, I mean, I can't do the maths immediately, but it's, I mean, if it's under 10, is it under 10? What is it? 7%, is it? Thank you, 7 or 8%. Thank you. Okay, can I go to Councillor Ellis, please?
Thank you, Chairman. It's just a question. I was looking at the other councils, and they're obviously what policies they've got for age of vehicles. But on Chichester it says the only exception are electric vehicles. So does that apply to every council? The electric vehicles don't have any age limit at all? Sorry, thank you.
Can I go to John Bryant, please?
No, Councillor, that's on a council by council basis. It's not a blanket policy. It's just a policy which Chichester decided to implement to try and incentivise the take-up of electric vehicles within their licensed fleet.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Bootshot, please?
Thank you, Chairman. It's just really a question and sort of a confirmation of my thinking around the fact that from the report it says that the age limit of 10 years was initially introduced in 2017, and it's been like that since 2017. So 5 years ago that was introduced. So clearly the people, taxi drivers, private hire vehicles, etc., would have been aware of this 5 years ago that this was coming, and this is essentially a sort of a last-ditch attempt to avoid having to buy new vehicles. Sorry to be very blunt about it, but you know, I'm just kind of clarifying that it was introduced in 2017, so there has been 5 years that they've been aware that this change was coming.
Can I go to John Bryant, please?
Yes, in fact, Councillor, just to provide clarity, the policy restricting the vehicle age to 10 years was in fact introduced by the Council in 2012. It was rolled out from the 1st of October 2017, and it's been in place since that time with just 3 drivers within that time seeking to go to the Sub-A committee to see whether or not the committee will allow the policy to be departed from in their circumstances. Just prior to the policy being implemented in October 2017, part of the trade did come to the previous Scrutiny Committee and ask for it to be amended at that time. It was considered by the Scrutiny Committee, I think, in the June of 2017, and it was decided at that point to keep the policy as it was. Obviously, 5 years on now, the trade has now come back asking for the policy to be reconsidered again.
Thank you. I don't see any other members indicating to speak. I think I need to now go to, so this committee's options are to, I would need, can I just clarify from a legal point of view, I need to get somebody to propose, if we're going to stick at, to recommend to Cabinet that the request is declined and that the vehicle age restrictions continue to be enforced at 10 years, I need to have somebody to propose which option we as a committee. Oh, should I go? Could I go to Kevin to explain the procedure? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. If it assists members, maybe from the Chair you might wish to suggest which of the recommendations you think the committee would like to move based on the debates, and then somebody can second that. That might be the easiest way of doing it.
All right, thank you. Well, from the Chair, I think we've taken a good look at this, and My recommendation from the chair would be that we take recommendation A and that we recommend to Cabinet the request is declined, that the vehicle age restrictions continue to be enforced at 10 years because the trade have had ample time to take this on board, and our priority is public safety. So I'm looking for a seconder for that. Councillor Whitaker, thank you. So can we then, Councillor Webster would like to speak.
Sorry, Chairman. Sorry, Chairman. I just wanted to make the point that members also need to consider those members who may have decided to leave the taxi driving profession because of the 10-year ban being in place, and also those members of the profession who have purchased new vehicles based on the 10-year limit, and that hasn't been mentioned at all this evening. And I think those are two important considerations to weigh against the fact that economic circumstances are challenging for people, and also we need to have the most healthy vehicle fleet that we can possibly have in mid-Sussex. So there are a lot of things to consider here, and I'm sure members will consider those very carefully. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Webster. So following on from that, our deliberations, we need to now decide whether I will still move from the chair that I would recommend to Cabinet member that the request is declined and that the vehicle age restrictions continue to be enforced at 10 years. And Councillor Whitaker has indicated that he would second that. So we need to vote on that at this stage. Thank you. Councillor Hussain, could you vote, please? So that recommendation is carried. It's carried by 10 votes to 1 against and 2 abstentions. Thank you. So, members, we now move to agenda item 8. This is the extension of our public spaces protection order on car cruising, and this is detailed to us on pages 33 to 36 to 66 of these papers. I mean, this committee considered implementing the PSPO back in Burgess Hill in 2020, so it's now come to us to consider extending that and expanding the scope of that. So I'm going to go again to Lucy Corrie to introduce this report. Thank you.
Thank you. The report is asking this committee to recommend to Council that the existing public spaces protection order is extended for a further 3 years, and to agree to implement 2 additional areas, and they are defined on the maps at appendices 2 and 3, which are pages 39 and 41 of your papers. In October 2012, the committee approved the PSPO in Burgess Hill to combat car cruising, and a definition of car cruising is at the bottom of page 33 of your papers. This order is due to expire in April this year. In the 2 years prior to the order being made, 140 complaints of car cruising were received in the Burgess Hill area. 38 complaints have been made since that order has been in place, and so that is suggesting that the order is indeed a deterrent. It has always been recognised that car cruising may move to other areas, and between May and July 2022, there have been 35 complaints of 4 car cruising meets in Job's Lane off the A2300, and more recently, reports of meets at the Birches Industrial Estate in East Grinstead, totalling some 100 to 150 cars at any one time. Before the PSPO can be put in place or extended, the Council must carry out public consultation. This was undertaken between the 17th of November and the 22nd of December of 2022, and a summary of those responses are at page 43. The Police and Crime Commissioner and the Chief Constable are supportive of these proposals, as are relevant town and parish councils. Sussex Police are also willing to enforce in the areas if required. And my team and I are obviously very happy to take questions on any of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that very full report. I'd like to open it up now to members for discussion. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The response to the consultation is disappointing, to say the least, but I have taken the opportunity to check with residents who, if you look on page 47, then you'll see let's call it a donut of properties immediately adjacent to Birch's industrial estates to the northeast, and they confirm that there is noise on Sunday evenings in particular, and it is very annoying. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I mean, I think it's very positive that the numbers of complaints has fallen since the when this PSPO was put in. So if no other members wish to speak, does Councillor Webster want to? No, thank you. Well, then I will immediately take us then to the recommendations. So this committee is being asked to recommend to the council that we note the contents of this report, that we agree to extend the existing PSPO for a further 3 years under the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014 for the prohibited activities outlined in the existing order at Appendix 5 within the area defined on the map at Appendix 1. And then point 3, to agree to implement the PSPO under the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014 for the prohibited activities outlined in the existing order at Appendix 5 within the 2 additional areas defined on the maps at Appendices 2 and 3. So I'm going to ask members now to vote on the touchscreen, please. Thank you. So that is unanimously agreed with 13 votes in favour. Thank you. So finally, I now go to agenda item 9, which is the Scrutiny Committee's work programme, and I go to Louise Duffield for that.
Thank you. I previously also had representations that you'd like a leisure strategy update added to the paper. Is that correct?
If that's possible, yes,
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful.
So we're recommending that that item is also added along with the current work programme for the March Scrutiny panel.
Okay. So now I'm going to ask this committee to recommend to note the committee's work programme is set out at paragraph 5 of the report with the addition of a leisure centre update. Thank you. So can I have that agreed? Thank you. That's unanimously been agreed with 13 votes in favour. I go to agenda item 10, which is questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice of which has been given I have no items. So I go to close this meeting at 7:55. Thank you, members.
Well done, Madam Chairman.